All right, next in the pile O budget is the Kubi Panthera. Now, do they actually call it a Panthera? Did they start calling it a Panthera, or just some fans made up that name? I don't know, but it's cool. It has one of the best opening thumb holes that you can find. It catches your thumb. It doesn't let your thumb slip out. Like, I gotta try to make my thumb slip out, but it just wants to open. The reverse flick, great. The detent on this guy is a little strong, okay? But the flipper tab is so textured and grippy that it doesn't matter. It just makes it come out snappy. And the reverse flick is great because this window is so big, your finger doesn't fall out. So even though it has kind of a stiff detent, it works great. The typical Kubi pocket clip, a little long. Good quality G10, but a little boring. Flat and then normal texture. And it has that upswept blade, kind of like the other knife, the Rook. Both of them kind of have that Persian look a little bit, which I like, but not everybody does. So does that make it a little harder to sell to everybody, or as a knife that's good for everybody? I don't know, but it is a nice one. Man, the action on this guy, really nice too. Sounds pretty cool too, even on the drop. All right, last we got this is a CRKT Avant Tac, and it has 8CR 13 MOV steel, so it's probably a little under the others in steel composition. 8CR is fine steel. You know, it's not gas station knife steel, but it's not quite as good as D2. It's not quite as good as the 154CM, and it's not quite as good as the 14C28N. But it's good. It's serviceable. Good steel. Now the blade's a little thick too. Let's see, is it the thickest blade? Let's see, this guy's pretty thick too. Yep, I think it's even thicker. Concept. Concept's probably close. They're real close. I would say they're close. So it's not, you know, overly crazy thick, but it's a pretty thick blade. But they do have a nice hollow ground, so it brings it down to a fairly thin edge. Got a pretty useful tip on this. Oh, what are we going to call it? Is it a sheep's foot? Maybe. Something like that. And like the Kubi, the thumb hole in this guy is great. You can't slip out of it. It just grabs your thumb, snaps open. Listen to that sound. This is the coolest sounding one to me. Not everyone maybe likes that metallic closing sound. It also bounces a bit when it closes. Well, so if you close it hard, it'll bounce. That bothers some people. Doesn't bother me. I kind of think it more as a feature than a bug. Let's see. What are some other things? Oh, look at this. We got recessed pocket clip, and the screws are also recessed down into it. That's a nice feature. That makes it smooth going in and out of the pocket. I mean, what are we calling this shape here? It's just kind of a little boring, but nice and heavy duty. You got the thick blade. You also have thick liners. I bet these liners are thicker than any other knife liners. Rook has some pretty thick liners, but not as thick. Nope. 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 None of them are even really close. I mean, you can't even really see how thick these guys are because they curve over. So what you see is the flat part, but then there's even more steel curving over. So these things they're close to twice as thick as the other liners. And it's a heavy sucker too. I think this is the heaviest knife of the bunch. Now shit, let's get weights. We'll just do it like this. Concept 4.4. The Rook upswept blade 5.1. So it's a little hefty. The other Rook 4.6. The Kubi 4.3, fairly lightweight. CRKT, got to be the heaviest, 6 ounces. It's right at 6 ounces. 6 ounces is what I kind of consider, and some other people too, it's not just me, I didn't make it up, they consider it to be like the limit of beyond that, now you're talking about a heavy knife. So it's getting close to being a heavy knife. But man, listen to that, it sounds so nice. Another thing I liked about this one was the pivot has these little cool designs on it, but they're also cool because if the pivot comes loose, which most knives do, especially budget knives, they do seem to kind of come loose now and then, you can actually tighten this guy with your fingers. It's great. So, does that make it a winner? It has multiple openings. Great flipper, even though the tab is a bit big. Flipper tab is a bit on the big chunky side, but we're talking about for someone who's getting into the thing for the first time. So a big tab, make sure you're not slipping, and look at those grooves on there to make sure you don't slip off. You're not slipping off there. These things are slip proof. I kind of think this guy is the winner. It's a CRKT. It's not, you know, one of the cool kids. But I don't know. I think it's good for somebody who wants to reverse flick and learn how to thumb flick and learn, you know, all the cool things about knives, but not spend, you know, over $100. I think this guy was 60, 65 tops. They're all under 75. I think the Kubi was maybe 50, 45, 50. Rook about the same. This Rook, I think 50, 55. The Prêt-à-tout, the Concept, was, I think, maybe it's the highest one. It was 70-ish, maybe. I don't remember. Something like that. But look them up. See what you guys think. They're all great. You can't go wrong with any of these knives. They're all really nice. Let's see. I'm going to put them in order. Best to least best, or best to worst, whatever. All right, I'm going to call that one the best. What's next? Oh, probably the Kubi. Now this is for, you know, beginners in the knife collecting, the knife enthusiast realm. What's next? I can't have this guy next because even though it's such great action, I didn't love the scales, but maybe someone else might, you know, I don't know. I think probably this guy, even though he's a little slippery, just because it's such a cool knife. Now, which Rook? Which Rook? I think this one, the Persian one, because it is good to go. So that's the order I put these guys in. They're all great, though. I think they'd all be a great knife for someone just getting into the knife world. So, you'll see reviews on some of these guys individually, full reviews later. But, for now, this guy comes out on top. The CRKT Advant Tac. Have a nice day.